Long time no see. Yes, it's been a while. And I've been putting off YouTube videos for a very long time because I just genuinely didn't feel like making one. But on this particular day, it was a very special day for me, so I wanted to make one. And the agenda for today is very packed. So I'm predicting this is going to go well over an hour. So by the time you see the video, you'll be able to see how long it is. So please bear with me. There's a lot to update on. Today is my 4th year anniversary with time tracking. 4 years ago in 2018, on July 16th, I decided that I wanted to understand how my time was going and what I was spending it on. And what I ended up doing was that I ended up using Toggle for it and pretty much tracked every single minute and never stopped since then. So that's going to be interesting to talk about. I have some really interesting stats that I want to talk about since the last few years that I've been spending. Since I've spent 4 years tracking this gives us some really interesting information. So let's start. In 2018 to 2019, which is when I started, that year, between 2018 and 2019, I'll put up some images so you can see everything very clearly. I want to just compare all 4 years. Look at year 1, look at year 2, look at year 3, and look at year 4. As you can see, every single one of them have such drastically different top 3, top 5 times. First year, I was incredibly focused on building my tutoring business. The second year, it was like my last year of school. The third year, I focused on trading and making my trading bot at that time. And I don't know if I said third or fourth, but this is the 4th year. I focused primarily on spending time with people and, as you can see, YouTube. And this is very interesting because I never actually knew that this was going to be the result. I literally was very surprised that every single year my focus has been changing. And to some degree, it's a good thing, right? Like that every single year that you're doing something completely different. So let's do some accounting here. In the 4 years, it's been over 11,000 hours of sleeping, 2,000 hours of people. So in this case, I just call people, just whether it's like friends or family, but not necessarily chilling, just being around people. 1,500 hours of tutoring, 1,200 hours on projects, 1,000 hours spent in the washroom, 900 hours calling, 850 hours messaging, 825 hours chilling with friends. So that's really high as well on top of the people. So almost 3,000 hours pretty much with people if you add that on top of each other. 800 hours of trading, 750 hours of learning, 700 hours of thinking, 625 hours of report writing, 600 hours of eating, 550 hours of researching, 500 hours of time tracking, 500 hours of books, 450 hours of contemplating, 350 hours of podcasts, 300 hours of movies. So out of those 300 hours of movies, there was about 129 movies that I watched. Some not all to completion, but yeah. 250 hours of meditation. Those are like the first 2 years. Haven't been meditating at all these last 2 years. 225 hours of working out. Same 2 years, first 2 years. 200 hours of gaming. Same thing, first 2 years. 200 hours of social media. 150 hours of TV shows. 50 hours of recorded journaling outside of these videos, for example. Just, for example, me sitting down, just putting the phone on my chest and just talking, or me just recording something for 1 minute, just giving an update. And just a fun fact also, I just found this interesting. It's the last statistic, is I spent 40 hours shaving my head over the last 2 years since I've been bald. So that's pretty interesting. As you can see, the big difference is the environment. So since the last video that's been recorded, I moved to another place. Now, not in a different room, sorry, not in a different building, but in a different room. I live in the same building. I previously was in a unit that pretty much had 5 roommates, and now I'm living in a unit that has only 1 roommate. So it's a 2-person unit, and it's much better than before. Obviously, I would, like turn everything, the camera around just so you can see. But the problem is that like it's perfectly stationed right there, and I spent a lot of time like setting it up, so I don't want to ruin it. But in the future, if the opportunity is there, I'll do it. So there was that. Basically what happened was I put myself in a wait list for these two-person units. I ended up freeing up and hit up one of my roommates that were in that 5-person unit at that time. Be like, yo, like let's go to this one, and then now we're here. So interestingly enough, I actually wish I could show you like the view as well. Like this is like the 19th floor. Has a beautiful view. I'll probably actually like put like a picture over here somewhere. Beautiful view, unbelievable, especially at night. And it's literally like a dream place considering like the amount of money that you're paying. You know what I mean? I think I'm talking. Yeah, this is like literally the next point, which is that as soon as I got this room, it came unfurnished. So I finally took the opportunity to really buy the things that I've always wanted to buy. So for example, I always wanted to buy like a nice bookshelf, and by now you've probably been like seeing like which books are already on there. And these are like all the books that I've like historically just been really interested in like growing up. I haven't actually like read any new books recently, but I remember I used to be like a huge fan of Robert Greene, good fan of Yuval Noah Harari, Nassim Taleb. Like these 2 books changed my life. Like I don't know if you can even see these books over here, but these are Ryan Holiday, Tony Robbins. These are all the older like books that have existed for more than like 50 to 100 years. Yeah, so basically I ended up getting a bunch of things, and you won't be able to see. Maybe you'll be able to see, for example, like the bed frame, the bed, the queen bed that I got before. I only had like a twin XL bed. I got this nice futon, got some nice throw pillows that are pretty comfortable. Got a nice standing desk that'll be behind. You won't be able to see it. I got a MacBook, as you can see. Much like a really good purchase for that. Overall, I got a really nice Persian carpet. Overall, the amount that was spent was over $10,000, including the MacBook. It was an unbelievable amount, and the point basically was that the point of doing all this was basically to just get everything off my chest. Usually, like I remember when I lived in my last unit, I didn't really like take advantage of whatever it is that I really wanted to do in that unit. I just like stayed there with nothing. Like I had no guests, just because it was like you couldn't fit like more than 1 person in there. That's how small it was. I had like no opportunity to like buy specific decorations or like just make the room actually look like somewhere like something like a home. You know what I mean? So that's what basically what that update was about. Overall, in the last 2 months, how many months has it been? Well, February, March, April, May, June, 5 to 6 months almost. So it's been pretty much half a year, and since then, I think I mentioned in the last video that I became the president of my building at that time, long time ago, and since then the number of hours dedicated to this building has jumped dramatically. It's jumped from like an average of like 15 hours per month to like 80 to 100, like an unbelievable amount. And the intention is basically to, I'll talk about intentions right after this. So basically, like in the beginning, in the first few months or the first month, it was all spent on onboarding, like really understanding like all the laws of the land, understanding the laws of a co-op, trying to understand our bylaws of the building, trying to understand all of the operations, and trying to actually be an effective president, because I didn't want to be someone that just had the title but wasn't actually doing anything about it. And so I spent like so many hours like reading the laws, going through training, had like over 100 hours worth of meetings with people, just because that's just like that's what entails being the president, including like meeting with the general manager and meeting with other fellow directors. So overall, I would say that in total I've spent over 1,000 hours working as a board member in the last 2.5 years or 2 years, but I've spent over 500 of those hours as a president. So in terms of work, not in terms of how long I've been president. So which as you can see, it's a lot of the effort that's being put in. The bulk of it's has happened in the last like 6 months. So what did I want to say about this? Basically, my intentions, I was going to talk about the intentions. The intentions basically here are to take advantage of the permissionless leverage that's missing at the building. What that basically means is there's a whole lot of content as well as direction that's missing for a lot of people. So for example, if someone's like a new director, they actually don't know where to find all of the relevant information for them to be an effective director. And so for example, for the last like 2-3 months, I've been focused entirely on trying to do that. And I created something called like a board onboarding center. And I also created something called the director portal, which allowed these people, the first one basically allows people to get onboarded very effectively. All the relevant information that's needed is completely on that page. And it's like a Notion page that has a whole list of things. It's a lot of information. Basically, the point is that anyone that actually wants to actually learn about something, they actually could. Versus me, when I first started, I wasn't able to actually do any of this because I was literally just asking people that were on the board about things that were never written down on paper. And I pretty much wrote everything that was relevant on paper. So for example, one of the documents basically documented the last 2 years worth of board meetings that have happened. Gave a summary of each one, gave the agenda of each one, gave the meeting minutes of each one, gave all the relevant financial statements and all the whatever information like a board sees, all very neatly organized in the table. That took a really long time, but it has a lot of leverage in terms of people looking at it. A lot of people that come on to like new organizations, they have that imposter syndrome. They have that feeling of, oh, I don't know enough to contribute. And solutions like this really alleviate that if they really, really want to understand. And so that's one of the things that was created. The second thing that I talked about, the director portal, was basically creating a workflow by which the board could be efficient. And that's something that never existed before either. So basically, like I tried to stress as much as I could on trying to create things that had a finite input and basically an infinite output. So long after I'm gone, I'm certain that both of these things are going to be used in the future, just because it's going to be the easiest thing to be using. So on top of that, I've been getting a lot of really interesting experience being at the head of things. A lot of people look at you as the person that's responsible, and whatever issues happen, they look at you for it. And it's really, really interesting to see how I've been handling that, because at the end of the day, the role of a person that's at the top is really all just dealing with problems. You're not really dealing with anything that's like super neat, because all the execution happens much lower, down the governance side, right? Below the governance side, I meant to say. And so it was really interesting to deal with a bunch of personalities in these 6 months that I've been here. A lot of personalities that usually would be very dormant, they just come out because when someone, historically I would say, it wasn't very fair how things were. And when you, for example, are a chair of a meeting, or when you, for example, try to be fair in a meeting, people, both sides of the party, are never going to be satisfied, because it's very similar to, for example, being like a moderator or being like a owner of a platform like Twitter. Like, think about all the problems that Twitter's going through trying to moderate posts by people that are leaning left or leaning right, or moving people or deplatforming people. It's a very, very difficult job, and it's really, really interesting to get like a small taste of that in the position that I'm in right now. and it really is informing like my future vision of what I want to do. I'll end up talking about that. So yeah, that was that building related stuff. Another interesting update since last time was that I got a VR headset. Now, I'm definitely going to be putting like some videos of this because I took some screen recordings like when I first started. It's really unbelievable how different things are compared to what I expected it to be when I first got it. You know, like when I first encountered VR, I was like in 2015, and I was at CES, and I was like putting on like some glasses and like using like this, I don't know what it was called. It was like an actual app on the Oculus store. But it was basically like you like taking blocks and like putting them to the inside like a basket or something like that, and that was it. But now you got like stuff like VR ping pong, and it's the most unbelievably realistic thing I've ever seen. You literally feel like you're in a real ping pong match, and you get tired and you get a lot of exercise by doing it. I remember my first few weeks of doing ping pong, I literally spent like 4 hours straight, pretty much like every few days, playing ping pong, like getting crazy amount of physical exercise, and I lost like 12 to 15 pounds just by doing that. And I'm obviously like still pretty like freaking skinny now. So it was a really game-changing type of experience that I got for that. There's also a really interesting app that I came across, which is called Big Screen. And what this pretty much had two benefits. The first benefit was that you're able to actually put yourself in a situation where you're literally able to see a huge theater-like screen to watch any movie that you really want to. And on top of that, you can watch those movies with your friends if they have a VR headset as well. And you're literally physically are able to see like your friends' avatars like right beside you, like you're on a couch and like you're talking to them and stuff. And the second thing was this concept of being able to just meet random people, just like go into random lobbies and just like go into lobbies or theaters in this case, of movies or whatever video of people that are interested in the same things as you, which I found just really interesting, because it's just a concept that like that has never existed before. This concept of being like, I like watching this type of thing, I'm gonna watch this with this person at this moment, and being able to talk to them, it's very immersive, it's very interesting. There's also like the games on there. I'm not going to talk too much about that. I'll probably like just show like some screen recording of people playing them, but like it's basically like what you've probably seen already. There's like a very realistic game called Gun Club, which pretty much makes you feel like you have like a gun in your hand, and it's any gun that you want, whether it's an assault rifle, a sniper, a shotgun, like a pistol, it doesn't matter. And you are able to literally look at it like in whatever way that you want. You're able to throw the gun away, you're able to pick it back up, you're able to physically reload things, you're able to move the mag from your pocket back and load it up. You're able to, for example, take the mag and throw it and then pick it up again. You're able to adjust your sights, you're able to move your attachments from one side to the other. It's unbelievably realistic, and that game was paid, obviously. A lot of these games were paid, and it really was just an experience, man. And the Call of Duty Fortnite version, or like Warzone version of VR, I think it was called Population 1. That's the same thing. Like instead of reloading normally, you actually have to physically reload, which is pretty cool. Anyways, like that's this whole thing. But then comes the other side of VR, which is on top of like the games, such as like the sports games such as ping pong, and like the actual like physical like gun games, like such as like COD or Population 1. There's like the apps that are for productivity or for just the social apps. There's an app called Horizon Worlds, and I haven't actually used it in like 2 months, but it's pretty much like just a revolutionary app in my opinion. It's what people are quoting the metaverse, but I really don't think that's like the true metaverse. It's basically like a much more polished version of VR chat, and it's made by Facebook obviously, and it allows people to create rooms, whatever room that you want. And because there's a lot of functionality, you can do a lot of really interesting things. So for example, there's a room very similar to, for example, like the big screen thing I was talking about, where you can find people with similar interests. You can literally go into a room that is like a comedy club, and you could sit down as an audience member and have people go on stage and literally perform comedy. You can literally have another room that's a studio where you literally go in the booth and you start rapping, and people on the other side are listening to you. You can literally be the freaking person that's in the studio, like sampling the music.
Money and let me keep my mind focused. I don't like when they be hating, and I know when they notice. Cause man, my chain hang low, and my diamonds go glow, and my bitch gon' hoe, cause I keep her on a stroke. Man, I'm something like a pimp, don't be mad at me. And I know that I'm getting bags, cause I see it for free, and all my bitches on the low.
It's crazy. So there's like another one called like Meta Court, which is super cool because like there's literally like there's like a role play of people, and I'll show like some video. There's a role play of people literally acting like they're the prosecutor, and then they have like they're like there's like I don't know what the terms are, but there's like the plaintiff, and then there's like the defendant. Basically, like it was so interesting, and they have like their lawyers beside them, and then like the jury's on the side, and then there's the judge on top. Literally, like they have like a freaking mallet that they can hit. It's so interesting, and then you also have like the people in the audience. It literally blew my mind because that doesn't exist, right? Like this is something that's entirely new, and I'm really, really excited to know how that's going to develop in the future. I really think every single one of our friends and family are eventually going to be on these apps, and we're just going to be able to interact with them on these apps if we're like far away from each other. So for example, I'm in Toronto, and like a lot of my friends are in New York, or I have a friend in Kansas now. I have some family, like for example in Europe. If we ever wanted to, for example, like interact with each other, we could just put on a VR headset and just do whatever we want. So it's another level. It gives me flashbacks of when Windows Live Messenger first started, like MSN, when I was able to do like instant messaging, and when I was able to instant message my cousin from Las Vegas, I was like blown away at that time. And just to see how much that has changed till now, oh my god. It hasn't even been like 20 years. You know what I mean? It hasn't even been 15 years. So there's another app called Archeo, which is a 3D version of SketchUp. So like on SketchUp, you're able to like create like buildings and stuff and create pretty much anything you want, design rooms. But Archeo is literally an immersive version of this, and it's unbelievable because I want you to think about the emergence that comes out of this. It's not like just like one extra feature and that's it. This concept of it being immersive is insane because you can literally design something, like design a building, and then put yourself in the building as if you're literally there, and then design small things with respect to that. Like hopefully I have like a video that illustrates this, but it's I wish I could show you. It's crazy. So there's like I can go on and on about VR headsets and about how good it is, but basically that's what I've been up to with that. I'm very interested in eventually, once I continue down my path of learning MVPs, to like eventually get into this VR space, because there's so much to develop. I have so many ideas of what to develop on there, and I'm really excited about what the future holds with respect to that. Recently what's happened is that I did my school convocation, even though I've graduated for over a year. Here's some pictures. I personally think that was like probably the best dressed there. I bought like a nice suit for the first time. I haven't bought like formal wear in a long time, and I finally bought something. And it was nice. Like it was a good time. Like I got to see all my friends again. It was super, super nostalgic to just go back on campus and pretend like we were back in school and stuff like that. Another interesting development is that I started drinking something called Soylent. I'm actually gonna grab it right now. I started drinking this. This is a meal replacement drink, which pretty much is replacing one of my meals that I eat per day. And I try to actually do this like 24 hours a day, like for like 7 days. And it's possible to have this forever, but like just the costs are unbelievably high. Like each bottle is like $4 to $5, depending on like when you buy it, as well as like what you subscribe and all of that. And it's really, really good because you can finish it in like 60 seconds. It's 400 calories, has a lot of protein, like I think 20 grams. It's really good in that case, but it's probably not worth it 24/7. It has all the relevant vitamins that you need. And so what I do is I use it as like one of my meals because it just saves me so much time. And right now I'm not the type of guy that's like really really interested in like cooking or preparing stuff right now. So it really makes things much easier for me, and I'm willing to like pay for that. One of the things, regrettably, I gotta mention, but I have to mention it, that I experienced in my life, was that I lost a significant chunk of my net worth 2 months ago. I talked about Fab, my trading bot, last month, and I'll talk about like the results of that. But this had nothing to do with the trading bot. It had to do with me just manually trading all over again. And I don't know if I ever talked about this, but this has happened to me in the last 5 years. I've put in a total of like almost $100,000 into my own hard-earned money into trading crypto. And it's unbelievable that all of that is pretty much gone. And I've lost all my money over and over and over again for the last 5 years, about half a dozen times. For that time. So for example, I'd put in like 10,000 when I was like younger, and then I'd lose it. I'd put like another 10,000, or I'd lose it, and I'd put in 20,000, and I'd lose it. And at that time, it was pretty much equivalent to me losing all my money, and it literally would kill me like every single time. And like the first few times, like I always thought that like I knew what was wrong and what the issue was. And as like I kept losing, like I started realizing like, wait, I actually don't know what the hell is going on. And this is the last time that it happened. It gripped me so powerfully as to like how this even happened, that like I literally stopped my entire life. I was like, I cannot do anything anymore until I figure this out. And the overall like direction of my life pretty much changed, where I became from going from this person that was like feeling like super like good and trying to like experiment with like VR and like trying to do like a bunch of other things that I was interested in. I just took life and like honestly, I was taking life a little less seriously at that time, but I just immediately just took life so much more seriously, because I thought to myself, I was like, why are we pretending like there isn't a problem? Why can't we fix the problem first and then sit back and relax? And so that like really impacted me. Like I started basically like this may make sense, this may not make sense. If you've been following like my videos and really have been contemplating the things that I've been talking about as well, it might make sense. But basically what I realized was that all of this was caused because of flawed assumptions. And I still haven't figured it out, but I'm actively working towards that, trying to understand the flawed assumption that caused me to act the way I acted. And I'm like very certain that that's what it is. I just don't know what it is, and I'm not willing to spend another dollar trading or doing anything until I figure that out. So I'm really just focusing on understanding these next few months, and just like indefinitely from now on, just because I started just realizing like there are so many red flags in your life, such as what's happened in the last 5 years, that like you can't let your life continue on. You become like successful, you make a bunch of money, and then the adversity hits you, and then you end up getting on the floor. Like that doesn't make sense to me. I'd rather literally suffer as much as possible and learn all the lessons as much as I can right now, so that I can have a very clear idea of how life works, so that I can enjoy the rest of my life rather than suffering constantly until the end of my life. So that's like how I'm viewing things right now. I'm pretty much never. One of the things that's stopping me from trading now is I'm just really cognizant of like the opportunity cost, and I'll talk about that. So as a result of that, there's 2 changes that I've made in terms of my productivity. There's one macro thing that I've done, and there's one micro thing that I've done. So let's talk about the macro thing first. What I realized was that I always would organize my tasks or like the things I had to do into areas of life, such as I would have to work on the business, I would have to work on like social things, I would have to work on my MVP skills, like software engineering skills, I would have to work on like something that's related to a job, I would have to work on that, or I have to work on my productivity or my organization. Like these are all separate buckets and areas that I would like split things into. And what I didn't realize was that this was just a horrible way of structuring your life. Because when you structure your life that way, there's no direction. What's stopping you from just jumping from area to area? There's no organization as to which area you're trying to do, and you don't know what's the most important area because it's not clear. When I realized after this adversity that happened, like this major life event that happened in the last 2 months, I realized that the only thing we're really trying to do is we're trying to solve problems in our lives. That's all we're doing. We're just trying to solve our problems. So if that's what we're trying to do, then why aren't we just working with respect to the problems that we want to solve? So why don't we center our workspace with respect to the problems that we are trying to solve? And that completely shifted things, because approaching things that way is very different. I realized that in order to solve any problem, you first have to understand the problem very well. So there's a whole list of things that I still have to contemplate and understand the assumptions I have behind them before I even solve any of those problems. So this is how I'm planning on doing things. I have a problem. Before I even start that problem, I have to understand every part of that problem. So I'll give you an example, actually. Give me a second. This one, I haven't prepared for this, but I'm just gonna quickly go on my problems list. By the way, you can actually, on my website, you can see all the problems I'm trying to solve actively right now. So let me just go to the problems that I'm trying to currently do. So imagine I say something like, this is just the problem of like, how do you recover after losing your phone? That's an example of like a problem that I really want to solve, because the phone is a very, very centralized source of information and security when it comes to like everything that you do. And so in order to understand this, you have to really understand the assumptions behind what you're saying, such as what does it really mean to lose your phone? What does that truly mean? That means, for example, this is just an example of an assumption. I haven't fully contemplated this, but this means, for example, losing access to two-factor authentication. This means losing access to text messages. This means losing access to certain documents. This means losing access to certain contacts. And so understanding the assumption of what losing your phone means gives you a way better understanding of the problem than if you just said, how do I recover losing my phone? And so that's how I'm approaching things. Before I start the problem, I understand all the assumptions behind the problem. And then once I understand all the assumptions, then I focus on solving the problem using this problem-solving framework that I have. And all of the tasks and everything is split into something I call a thought spectrum. It starts with assumptions, because after assumptions, then you have problems. Like, given your assumptions, that influences what problems that you have, right? Like, there are certain assumptions that you might have that if you realize, like, oh, those assumptions are sorry, I've been coughing. If you understand, for example, imagine like you believe like Santa Claus exists or something like that, and like one of your problems is like, how do I like see Santa? You know what I mean? Like, how do I like get Santa to like give me better gifts? So long as you have that assumption, you'll have a bunch of problems that are non-starter problems. Like they're not relevant at all. So the number one thing to do is start with whatever problem that you have and then look at the assumptions to see if it's even worth solving. So that's why there's assumptions to inform the problems that you have. After problems, you have a list of experiments that you want to do. And after experiments, then you have a list of things of data that you collect, such as like tracking, like whatever it is. And then after tracking the data, then you have a list of things that you want to analyze. And after you have a list of things that you want to analyze, then you have a list of things that you want to design and ideas that you have for solving a problem. And after you do that, then you implement the solution to that problem. So that's how I'm approaching things. It's literally just entirely got to do with that. And what was I going to say? that's how I've structured pretty much like my Todoist now. That's how I've structured my Notion now. And so what I want to basically say here, let me go back to my notes here, is that I'm finally getting to a point where I'm reorganizing everything such that it's structured around solving problems. The good thing about this is that it really makes me focused on what exactly I want to do at this moment. It's not about goals or systems, because those are artificial. At the end of the day, whatever goals that you choose to do, you don't actually know whether you really deeply want to solve those goals. Maybe they're just goals that you'd like to, you ought to do, but they're probably not goals that you actually really want to do. So that's why I structure it according to problems that I want to solve. And so the other thing that I did on top of that was that I put everything on my calendar. This is the micro thing that I did in terms of my productivity. So there's the macro, which is the problem centering of the workspace, and then this is the micro productivity, which was that I made a lot of changes to my calendar. So I realized that putting things in your calendar that you don't quite want to do is never a good thing. And putting things in advance, like to do, like, and you haven't fully accepted that you actually want to do that, you'll just end up not doing it, and therefore you'll just stop listening to your calendar. And so one of the changes that I did was that I was very, very intentional on what I put for my to-do on my calendar, because I put everything on my calendar, like even when I go to the washroom and stuff, or when I plan on, like, for example, eating. Sorry, not the washroom. That's the time tracking. I put everything on my calendar, such as the time I sleep, the time I wake up, the time I have to, like, for example, go and, like, brush my teeth or take a shower and stuff like that. And so, because I put everything on my calendar, everything that I have to do, if I haven't, the changes that I made was that if I haven't fully accepted that I want to do that thing, it's not going to be on that day. It's not going to be, like, due at any moment between now and the end of the day. The only calendar events that will be there will only be the things that I fully accepted. So there's that. The second thing that I did was that I realized that there was a lot of inefficiency and unproductivity when it came to the white spaces between events. Like, I just wouldn't do anything. It would basically be unmarked events, unintentional events, and in those moments I would go sit around and do whatever, like, just not even be, like, aware of what I was doing with my time. And so one of the things that I designed was that I created this script to pretty much scan my calendar. Every single time that it saw a white space, it would literally notify me. And right now, for example, I wish I could do it now, but you won't be able to hear it because my phone's recording. But basically, it's like, ever since, I'll hopefully show you, like, the calendar before and the calendar after. But basically, let me just like show you like this. Like, this is how it looked like before. It was a bunch of white space, and look at how much everything changed when I finally decided to actually implement this, where I'm getting every 5 minutes a notification until I actually put something on my calendar. And it doesn't matter what the thing is. It could even be like wasting time, or like taking a break, or like whatever it is, watching a movie. It doesn't matter. Just like put whatever you're intending on doing, put it on the calendar. The reason why is because it really increases the amount of iterations and reflection in your day as to, like, what you want to be doing and whether you actually want to be doing the thing that you want to be doing. And that's really, really good for self-awareness. And so I've been doing that. And if I haven't already shown it, you can see how crazy the difference is. So there's that in terms of doing that. And then I also upgraded to my calendar from Google Calendar to using Cron. Cron is like an unbelievable calendar. They pretty much solved every single problem I've ever had with the calendar. Okay, a few more items. Let's follow up from the last video. The last video, I was incredibly just, like, cool, chill, calm. Felt like I was, like, freaking free. And I did feel free, right? Like, at that time, I was, like, up $5,000, about 30% of my entire net worth in 5,000 USD. And my whole net worth while I was running my trading bot. So I felt like amazing. So this is how it looked like before. And that motherfucker literally fell so hard after that it looked like the fucking Great Depression. And so I lost like 19 trades in a row, which was like something like statistically impossible. So I realized, I was like, yo, I gotta like freaking like stop this bot like ASAP, because I need to understand like what the hell the problem was. And I sort of like got into like this huge discouraged phase, because I was like, I spent so long on this bot that I don't even know whether I'm willing to spend 1 more month or 2 more months or however many months extra to try to figure this out, because I don't even know whether this is even going to work anymore right now. And even if it does work, the amount of money that I have is not justifiable for the amount of return that's possible, because there's a very high risk if it doesn't work, because it's not like a job where you spend like 5 years working at a job and then you get fired. You at least learn something. You at least did things. You know what I mean? For this, you're not learning anything. You're not building any skill. It's all research. So that's the problem. So now, what I pretty much have the mindset of now is, until I have a significant amount of money, it's not worth investing at the moment, because at the end of the day, investing is all about good decision making, and good decision making only pays when you have scale. And so why am I worrying about good decision making when I don't even have any scale? I don't have any money to like invest. I don't have a lot of capital, so it just didn't make any sense. And so like when, you know, like the markets are currently like super down, like Bitcoin like is at 20K, and I'm like thinking of investing, but I just realized like, okay, sure, like what if it goes double? Like it's not gonna make me any money. Like, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't make any sense. Like the most amount of money that I could possibly make is literally like let's say like, even if it's like $20,000-$30,000, it doesn't matter. It's nothing. It's not enough. If it was like 100,000, 300,000, that would be a lot. And so I'm not worried about decision making right now. I'm gonna come back to the bot after I establish the foundation where I don't have to worry about survival anymore, at least at the minimum. So that's the update from that video. I definitely don't feel free anymore, but I feel much more calm because I've had a lot of realizations in these last few months in terms of just everything. But we'll talk about that. There's a few other things that I have to mention. I don't know how deep we'll get, but let's just see how it goes. Yesterday, interestingly enough, I had my first mushroom trip. And that was the first time that I've really experienced like true freedom. Like I really had like freedom of like everything. Like I didn't have any worries in the world. I didn't care about any type of social fabric, any type of I don't know how to explain it. I basically was just like chilling on my bed, over on my computer, just like looking at my hand, looking at my face, like so interested in just like what was going on and just like the day to day, super present. Couldn't even conceptualize a story about anything, whether I was listening to music, whether I was listening, like hearing someone talk. I wasn't even able to follow them because I was so present in the moment. And obviously I wasn't like infinitely present where like you're like enlightened or anything, but I was just so present. My abstraction level was so low. I've never been there before. And so I remember when I was during that trip, I was literally thinking to myself, like, what do I want to do with my life? Because that was one of the intentions that I put. And I thought about, like, for example, like one of the things that always would trigger me would be like, oh, like, how would I feel if I'm 30 years old or 40 years old, like right now, and I'm still doing the same thing? And when I thought about that then, it didn't even make sense to me, because I'm like, why are we even worried? Like, what even is the future? Like you're literally just living right now. Like, I can't even explain it right now. Like, basically, my point is like, I didn't even conceptualize the future the same way in which I'm conceptualizing it now. The feeling of like, oh my God, you're wasting so much time because you're going to be 30 and 40 soon and you didn't do anything with your life, only applies when you're at this level of abstraction. And so that's one of the interesting lessons that I learned from that at the end of the day, there really is no meaning. Like, it depends on your level of abstraction. You increase it, you know, like your meaning becomes even more grand. If you decrease it, your meaning becomes even less grand. So that's pretty much what I realized. Recently, also, I've been really just like honing in on my sincerity. and just been clearly just doing the things that I've been wanting to do as I've been doing in the last few months. But one of the interesting developments that have come out of this is that I've really had like this allergic reaction to insincere people. And it's crazy because I'm able to detect it in almost everybody, man. It's crazy to say it like that, because it's not almost everybody, but it's just like select people that I'm surrounded with like often. I'm like, damn, like I can't even believe that I'm literally around these people. And I've been developing like a huge desire to just want to be around sincere people, or just not want to be around insincere people. I also couldn't shake off this feeling of just this bitterness that I feel towards insincere people. It's so interesting. Like, I'm usually really, really calm and don't like blame people for certain things, because I understand like at the end of the day they don't really have a choice of doing what they want to do. But like, if I were to be honest with myself, I really believe like sincere people have like a choice of being insincere. It's so crazy. And so that's like one of the things that I'm really interested in like further examining. So, damn, that's pretty much the end of everything I wanted to talk about for now. Future plans is to continue going into this reorganization of my problem centering, like this problem centering of my workspace, transferring all of my notes and things from like OneNote and Evernote to like Notion. I haven't finished Evernote, but like OneNote still, there's a few things. And after that's done, that's when like really I think I can move a lot more quicker. I've experienced a lot of productivity and been doing a lot of things since I've incorporated the white space thing. And I'm really excited to know what's going to happen next, because I'm having just a clear and clear, by the day, having a clear and clear understanding of exactly what I want. And that's pretty much all that matters to me right now. With that being said, 4 years of time tracking, here's for another 4.